We are good to go. Pursuant to Section 841411 of the Nebraska statutes and Executive Order 2003, which was issued on March 17th, 2020, notice of this meeting was given on April 10th, 2020. The meeting will convene at 6:30 p.m. and as a part of notice of this meeting, the public was informed that anyone wishing to participate in public comment should complete an online public comment form posted on the district website. Once again, if you would like to participate in public comment, please complete the public comment form that is online no later than 6:30 p.m. After completing the form, you will receive a phone call to join in. Please call within the first 5 minutes of the board meeting in order to be heard at this meeting. You will be placed in the waiting room of Microsoft Teams and invited to enter when the board reaches the public comment section of the agenda. Agenda items are subject to reordering at the discretion of the board president. Please attend the entire meeting to ensure you're able to hear any discussion.
Hello?
Unknown participant is now joining.
Hi, is that you, Nancy, Mrs. Cracky?
Yeah, I am there.
Excellent.
Here.
Thank you so much. Can you mute yourself?
Mute myself, yeah.
Yep. Okay. I know you know how to unmute, so thank you so much.
And again, for anybody that is interested in leaving a public comment for tonight's meeting, on the district screen right now, we have the link that you can click on to click on that link if you would like to make a public comment for tonight's meeting. Okay, pursuant to Section 841411 of Nebraska statutes and Executive Order 2003, which was issued on March 17, 2020, the next regular meeting of the Board of Education of Douglas County School District 0001 and Board of Educational Service Unit number 19 will be held telephonic and video conference on Wednesday, May 13, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. The agenda will be kept current and available for public inspection on the district website, www.ops.org. Pursuant to Section 841412 of Nebraska statutes, the public is hereby informed that a current copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act, along with a current copy of Executive Order 2003, are available as attached to the agenda for this meeting. The agenda and attachments may be found at www.district.ops.org. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ms. Cassidy will lead us in the OPS vision and mission statement.
Okay, thank you, Mark. I'll start with the vision. Every student, every day prepared for success. And the mission, Omaha Public Schools prepares all students to succeed in college, career, and life.
Thank you. Moving on to our next item on our agenda today. Moving on to board and superintendent communications, the treasurer's report, Mr. Roberts.
Thank you, President Snow, members of the board, and Superintendent Logan. The financial statements for the period ended February 29th, 2020 have been finalized and submitted for your review.
Thank you. College, you can click on the link there and review them. And if you have any questions, please reach out to the superintendent and Mr. Roberts. Dr. Logan, Superintendent Communications.
Good evening, everyone who is watching at home. Good evening, Board of Education members, President Snow, and condolences to our Vice President, Ms. Holman, and the loss in her family. I want to begin my remarks this evening by thanking our teachers, staff members, and our district leadership team, as well as each of you, our Board of Education, for your ongoing commitment to our students and families. I believe this may be our first ever online video conference Board of Education meeting, and I appreciate you all being here to ensure that A, we each continue to adhere to the stay-at-home measures for the health and safety of our community, and B, we ensure the necessary business of our school district moves forward. As you can see by the lengthy agenda, the business of the school district keeps rolling. Our teachers, principals, and technology teams have dedicated countless hours toward migrating lessons online for our students to continue learning at home during this unprecedented time, when they themselves are also under stress and concern for their loved ones and themselves. OPS teachers are amazing. Many have reached out to check in on students and their families through email. Some have made phone calls and continue to record video lessons and host online chats to maintain students' academic engagement. Throughout the past several weeks, we've handed out a variety of electronic devices, including district laptops and iPads, to help families support student learning at home. Our focus has been on supporting our families and limiting disruption to the degree of possible to student learning until we can return to a state of normalcy, and also to plan for what's ahead. We've also handed out learning packets for our elementary and special education and our students receiving, all of our students. Our printing and publication team has been incredible, keeping pace with the weekly demand for learning packets and ensuring they're available for parents to pick up each week at a variety of sites. This has truly been a Herculean effort on their part, and we appreciate their dedication. This has never been done before, and God willing, it will never have to be done again. As a reminder to families, all of our digital curricular resources have been posted to ops.org on our designated academic resources page. We will continue to develop and disseminate student lessons to maintain the academic progress our students have made throughout the 2019-2020 school year. We realize that there are many barriers to doing this, and to include the current circumstance. Reading. We encourage a minimum of 20 minutes a day. I've had the chance to speak with many of our families directly as we've handed out learning packets and electronic devices at our schools, as well as during our food distribution. Many are balancing homeschooling with working from home, or having to leave their students at home while they go to work as essential workers. Many are essential personnel at jobs that require them to report in person, leaving the homeschool responsibility to an older child, family member, or to friends and neighbors. We want our families to know the sacrifices they're making during this time are not lost on us, and we are here to support them to the extent that we can. Families with questions about any of the materials or content included in the learning packets are encouraged to email their students' teachers for support or clarification if necessary. And of course, they can always use the phone. And if parents are unable to reach teachers, they can email their principals for assistance. Some parents have reached out to me. I have always made sure they connect with a principal. In addition to schoolwork provided in the weekly learning packets and online assignments from teachers, we want to ensure students are aware that they can take advantage of OPS ebooks and audiobooks through Sora. our online resource. Students can email their reading teachers for access instructions or their school librarian if needed. We'd like students to spend 20 minutes a day reading if possible, especially during protracted time away from the classroom. For further instruction, students and parents should contact their school librarian. Reading is such a critical, lifelong, essential skill for learning. Our partners at Scholastic have supported us for a number of years by providing books for our students to read over the summer break. As part of that partnership through generous philanthropy, this year we received over $1 million grant to provide more than 31,000 backpacks, including 10 books for each of our pre-kindergarten through third grade graders this summer. Our fourth, fifth, and sixth graders will receive 5 novels to read over the summer as a part of the grant. In addition to the more than 250,000 hard copy books we will hand out to students next month. So next month, Scholastic is giving our elementary students access to BookFix, an online literacy resource that pairs interactive fictional storybooks with nonfiction books to encourage and reinforce reading skills. We will share more details with families on how to and where to pick up Scholastic books in the next few weeks. Support for students, staff, and families and self-care is really important. Earlier this week, we shared resources with our staff, encouraging everyone to take care of themselves and one another physically and emotionally during this pandemic by having a buddy during this time on whom they check in each week. We've organized support resources on our district website with tips from the CDC, including breaks from television and the 24/7 news coverage of the pandemic, which can be taxing on people, as well as eating well, taking appropriate breaks from work, and taking scheduled time to unwind. Meal distributions continue through the Omaha Public Schools. In addition to our robust partnership with the food bank, our nutrition services teams provides grab-and-go meals for families. At this past week, we handed out meals at Benson High, Gateway Elementary, Skinner Magnet, and South High. Next week, we expand to Nathan Hale Middle School and to Norris Middle School. We've served more than 20,000 meals a week to each in families in our community these past several weeks. Our partners with the Food Bank of the Heartland, we also thank them for their support with meal distribution. I should also point out that we offered an opportunity for our staff members to donate through a payroll deduction to the food bank. So far, we have had many members who have reached out and have participated and will have this money deducted from their paycheck, which will go directly to the food bank for the Heartland. Thank you to Mr. Roberts and his team for spearheading that. And for employees who still haven't sent that in, you still have time to do that. Our seniors are likely, all of our students are impacted, but those rites of passage associated with the senior year that all students look forward to are obviously affected by this, by the coronavirus and our need to practice social distancing. 2 weeks ago, I met with the class presidents from each of our high schools during an online video conference to get their feedback regarding options for virtual graduation. The class of 2020 has had to sacrifice so much of their last school year with us due to the pandemic. Before moving forward with planning alternate celebration options, we wanted to get their input. Their desire and longing for a traditional celebration was very clear on the call, and we share their sentiments on the importance of commemorating their K-12 education during an in-person ceremony in the company of their family and friends. At the same time, under the current circumstances, we are unable to deliver that for them this May. We have a team working on virtual celebrations, which we will host in May. Those details will be released at the end of this week. Following, I'd like to thank Jeremy Maskell and Fatima Fulmore for their work and Susan Christopherson for their work, as well as all of our high school leaders who have worked to make sure that that's going to happen. Following the meeting with our senior class presidents, we communicated with all of our graduating high school seniors and their families to hold a virtual graduation celebration at the end of May. Conditions permitting, we will move forward with traditional in-person graduation celebrations. We will share those details. As I said, the in-person ceremonies are scheduled for August 1, August 3, and August 4. Kudos and thank you to many, 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 many folks. We always have so many outstanding efforts in our school district. This past weekend, the Omaha World Herald published the winners of the 2020 Alice Buffett Outstanding Teacher Awards. Each winner will receive a $10,000 award and $1,000 in McDonald's gift cards. We're very excited for that. The ceremony was moved from April to, I believe it's October, and so we're hopeful that we can have that in October. We thank the Susan Thompson Buffett Foundation for supporting this recognition, and I believe it's the Alice Buffett Foundation that actually supports that effort as well. Congratulations are also in order for 23 Omaha Public School students recognized as World Language Week Distinguished Scholars by the Nebraska Department of Education. We have been recognizing those on our social media pages, through our Twitter account and through our Facebook account. To Audrey Anderson of Omaha North High School for receiving a Coca-Cola scholarship. More than 90,000 students across the country applied for this award. So Audrey, really fantastic effort. To Benson High School's Go Bunnies, Valkyrie Boswick, who earned recognition at the online National K-12 Ceramic Exhibition. She even earned recognition, although it was virtual. To the 9 Omaha Public School students who earned awards from the Metro Science and Engineering Fair in March, and to our OPS printing and publications team for their cover page article in Printing Trade magazine. In conclusion, our district leadership team remains in close contact with our local public officials at the local and state level, including the Department of Education, planning together and sharing timely information and updates amongst each other and within our communities. I want to reiterate our appreciation for our teachers and staff members who continue to provide selfless support to our students and families. We are in this together. We are going to move forward together, and we will only get through it together. My last comment of the evening is around some of the comments that were made by our wonderful Commissioner of Education this afternoon, and they were reported in, I believe, the World Herald and on some of the local television stations regarding the potential disruption in the fall. And we are looking at contingencies, and we'll share more of that information with our community as we move forward. We do have to prepare. We do have to make sure that all of our students have connectedness, and with some of the things in the CARES Act, we hopefully will be able to do that so that the next time we have to do this, we will be even better prepared by providing lots of training for our amazing teachers and staff, and by making sure that all of our students
Is now joining.
that they need in order to be successful in their home environments. Thank you, Mr. Snow, and indeed, thank you to the entire Board of Education for your steadfast support and confidence as we go through this very, very difficult time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Logan. We'll do board comments and then we'll take take roll. Ms. Goding, Mrs. Goding.
Good evening. I just wanted to share for our staff's benefit that I sit on the Educators Health Alliance Board, and we had a very lengthy meeting yesterday. And one of the things that came out of that was the need to support staff across the entire state. The EHA Wellness team has put together a number of resources, and if your email is available to them, you'll be receiving an email regarding Headspace, which has been widely received very favorably throughout the state. And so I would just encourage, if you get that email, to take a look at Headspace, which is being offered through the alliance we have between Blue Cross Blue Shield and the Educators Health Alliance.
Thank you. Any other comments from board members?
Nancy, I'd like to say something. Mark?
Mrs. Cracky?
Mark?
Yes.
I just wanted to commend Superintendent Logan for a wonderful, wonderful report. You have answered a lot of the questions that are out there. And I have a further question. Will her reports be able to be on the webpage so people can read exactly what was said?
Yes, Ms. Cracky, it's posted on the district website, her notes under the Superintendent Comments.
Okay, because it was really, really insightful, and it put out a lot of things that are yet to come and questions that have been all over the place. And I'm so happy that she did that with such a clear and did it all well. I only want to encourage some of the students that may not be connecting with their teacher, because I know that one that I know is doing the video things for them so they can learn the lessons. But if there are some students that do not have, are not connected at all, please call the school and talk to the principal so you can get connected, because sometimes people move, sometimes things happen, and I just want to be sure that everyone gets covered. And again, that report was really excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cracky. Mr. Ray, roll call, please.
Okay, just hold 1 minute here.
And I'm assuming nobody else had any comments, board comments? I'm looking at the meeting chat on the side here. Okay, thank you.
Cassidy?
I'm here.
And that's a good reminder to make sure that you unmute. Cassidy, Godding,
Present.
Ullman, Cracky,
Here.
Perlman,
Here.
Ryan,
Present.
Smith,
Present.
Snipe,
Present.
Snow,
Here.
8 present.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. I will entertain a motion to excuse Dr. Shavana Holman from tonight's meeting.
So moved. So moved. Camera snipe. Oh.
Second.
Second.
There's a motion by Ms. Snipe, second by Ms. Ryan. Roll call, please.
Cracky,
Here. Yes, I.
Perlman,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Smith,
Aye.
Snipe,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Cassidy,
Aye.
Godding,
Aye.
8 ayes.
Motion carries. Thank you. We have no public comments submitted. Moving on to our next item, which is the consent agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda that is before us.
Move approval.
There's a motion by Ms. Cracky. Is there a second?
Second by Cassidy.
Thank you. Second by Ms. Cassidy. Any abstentions? I will be abstaining from H27, Claim C. Hearing no other abstentions, Mr. Ray, roll call, please.
Perlman,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Snipe,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Cassidy,
Aye.
Godding,
Aye.
Cracky.
Cracky. I.
8 ayes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Moving on to our next item on the agenda. Scrolling down here. Item I-1A, COVID-19 emergency resolution. This was originally on the consent agenda. All these items that are on action were originally on consent. Leave the first to Mr. Perlman, and then I'll open up to other board members if you have any questions or anything else on Mrs. Neelis Brash, are you there?
I am.
Okay. Mr. Perlman, do you want to ask your question first, or do you want her to just explain the resolution starting off?
I'd prefer to hear any presentation first, please.
Perfect. Ms. Neelis Brash, could you explain the resolution for COVID-19 emergency response?
Certainly, Mr. Snow. President Snow, members of the Board of Education, Superintendent Dr. Logan. Tonight on the agenda, you will find a resolution for COVID-19. The purpose of that resolution is to maximize the district's ability to act nimbly and flexibly in a time where we have a natural disaster. It's in the best interests of the district, should the need arise, to act efficiently and effectively. You will find that most school districts across the state have adopted a similar resolution, and this type of resolution has been used in the past as well. For example, Lincoln Public Schools had their administration center burned down a number of years ago, and they passed a similar resolution that takes effect and is used in times where you have emergency situations. If the need does not arise, it will not be used, but should it arise, as we know during these times, things change from day to day and minute per minute. And so it's important to have that additional flexibility available for the district in order to maximize their ability to act. So that's the purpose of the resolution. I will entertain any questions.
Thank you. Mr. Perlman.
Thank you, Mr. Snow. My first question is, what could not be done if this resolution was not passed?
For example, policy 7000 is listed in the resolution. Sometimes you might have bidding requirements that you would normally have. The resolution provides that we would be able to go out and purchase or do something that we need to act quickly on in order to get something that is over the $50,000 mark that the Board of Education has set. Or has provided some level of flexibility in order to get that bidding done. So that's one example that this resolution provides for.
My next question is, how quickly could an emergency meeting be convened if this policy isn't passed, or this resolution?
It's 48, 24 hours depends on, how one would say whether or not there's an emergency that would necessitate the need for that, but 24 to 48 hours.
It's my understanding that an emergency meeting requires no notice, so it can be called immediately. Is that correct?
There has been a case in Omaha, provided notice at the beginning of the day and then was able to have a meeting at the end of the day. But there is also a case out there that said that another place did that as well, and the 24 hours was required to have notice. So the law is not clear that you'd not require notice for an emergency meeting.
Okay. How does that case law reconcile with our policy? I believe it's 8342, which says that no notice is required for an emergency meeting.
Give me a second to look at 8342. That does provide that in the policy. I would say that I'd still recommend at least 24 hours notice before an emergency meeting.
Okay. Well, that's really all the questions I have. I guess I'll just say this to anyone who's listening. I cannot stress enough that this has absolutely nothing to do with my trust or faith in Dr. Logan, which is absolute. She knows that. I've told her that today. My only point here is that for the board and the administration to work as a team, collaboratively, and the way that the structure and the policies have always been set up, I think that board policies are made for times like these. Now, of course, nobody's really been in a time quite like this. There's been some similar times, but these are why policies are formulated. They weren't formulated for 6 months or 12 months ago. We didn't need the policies then. That's my first point. Having structure, we all tell that to our students. We all know in our daily lives when everything's upended, as everything is for everyone right now, that structure and continuity is critical. Administration has made some really big decisions over the last 30 days that I think everyone on the board supports. I certainly did. I think that the closings of the schools when it happened was absolutely the right call at the right time. Dr. Logan and everyone in the district has shown an unbelievable amount of leadership, but this is not something, I just don't think that this is something that needs to be done. I just think that's absolutely clear. It doesn't need to be done. If we can close the schools, set up food delivery sites the way we have, done everything else the way we have, it's clear that this isn't needed. We also have cut out board meetings for the foreseeable future, gone from 2 meetings a month to 1. I am not sure that that's a good idea. Again, I think we should keep moving as we have. I think that's the way that we can best collaborate as a team, not to cut back our collaboration at this point. I think it's counterproductive. I think that one of the great aspects of a public school system, one of the many great aspects, one of them is an elected school board where every single school board member is held accountable, and it's our duty to provide oversight, no matter how much faith or confidence we might have in superintendent or administration. That's why, again, I'll reiterate, it has nothing to do with that. You can have complete faith and trust and belief in your superintendent and still understand that it's our job always to provide that oversight. That's just how a public school system works. So if we move forward with this, then that goes away. I don't think, well, actually, I can tell you, I know Dr. Logan will only do what is best for the school district and the students and the teachers. I think that's how she's always operated. But again, that has nothing to do with giving up the job that we were voted to do. And so I would never give that up. Emergency meetings, it's absolutely clear that emergency meetings can be called immediately. No notice is required. You only need to get 5 people on the phone if something is that urgent. Again, more than a month has gone by, or at least about a month has gone by since the schools have been closed. Nobody's questioning that at all. And if that can be done without the school board's authorization, then I think it's clear that anything could be done. I'll come back later because if this is going to pass, and I know it's going to, I would offer a slight amendment, and that would be, I can give the exact part of the policy or the resolution at one point, at later, a few minutes here, but I would just change part of it where it talks about keeping the board appraised. I have some language written here about just notifying the board as soon as possible about every action that's going to take place, rather than just keeping the board appraised. But again, when we pass this, that means we give up our ability to not surplus Yates. So that's, and I'm not saying that's going to happen. I have no idea, but that could happen. And so we will basically give up any oversight as to the budget or to the school year or to negotiated agreements. And I'm almost done. The last thing I'll say is, again, Dr. Logan will do what's best in all of those situations. That's not the point at all. The point is we were elected to provide that oversight. And in my mind, we in no situation can ever give that up. And so that's why I have to vote no against this. So.
Thank you, Mr. Perlman. Up next is Ms. Ryan.
Thank you, President Snow. And I actually want to support everything that Ben just said. And that might come to a shock from some of you, but like, I 100% agree that I feel like this resolution is way too broad, that it essentially gives away all the powers that we have as elected officials. And I mean, I only have 7 more months of this, and I'd like to finish it to my term. And so there were a number of things that I found a little bit concerning, and specifically point C. I don't understand why already negotiated contracts with our bargaining units would have to be modified instead of searching for a temporary MOU as we just approved on the consent agenda. And then having those MOUs being reviewed after the end of the term, and then proceeding either with an extension of that agreement or going back to the normal bargaining agreement that everybody was involved with at the table. Other than all of the points, I don't feel like I need to restate all of the points that Mr. Perlman stated. But that's where I am on that as well, and I would also be voting no.
Thank you. Are there any other Mrs. Goding?
Yes, I won't reiterate the same things that Ben and Amanda have already touched on. I too believe that Dr. Logan will do the very best job through this process. I guess I would bring up a couple of points. One is we kind of started this issue about 30 days ago, and I realized that Lincoln approved this quite some time ago. We've been through an awful lot since then. I would hope that going forward, we've kind of stabilized a bit in as far as knowing how we could do a virtual meeting and any of the other major issues. We're not in school right now. The school year is coming to a close. So I just feel like this resolution is a little bit past the time when maybe it was more necessary. The other thing that I looked at on this resolution is, after consultation with the board president and vice president, I remember sometime ago, and it's probably been a number of years, we also had one of the same type of thing come up related to legislative issues. And if something changed on the fly in the legislature and we had to have the superintendent make a decision, one of the things that we talked about at that particular time was creating a committee, and that's exactly what we did. We used the legislative committee, and as changes came about in the legislature, he would then contact each of the 4 of us. We would give him feedback on how he wanted to proceed, and then the board president would contact everyone on the board to let them know immediately that day what the item was and why we had chosen to do what we did. So I'm a little concerned that there's not more of a committee process to this. So I too will be voting no, just because I also only have, as Ben and Amanda only have those few months left on the board yet, but I was elected and I have a fiduciary responsibility to listen to my constituents. And I would certainly think that if there was an emergency situation, we could call a meeting just like we're having right now and vote on item.
Thank you, Mrs. Goding. Mrs. Cassidy.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, my camera's a little bad angle here tonight. I won't reiterate everything that everyone just said, but just wanted to make it clear that I also, I agree with a lot of this policy, but I would like to see it tightened up. And as Mrs. Goding just stated, I think that committees would be a great idea. Looking at this, that was a great idea that you just had based on what you did back in your legislative, I think you said the legislative committee. But I would support item C on this is, as Ms. Ryan stated, that's the issue that I have as well. I think that it's giving up too much of our power that we have, oversight that we were granted by those people that all of our voters that voted us into office. So item C is the biggest issue that I have. But again, I would support this if we just cleaned up some of the language and tightened it up a little bit. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cassidy. Any other questions or comments from members of the board?
I have one.
Mr. Perlman.
I just want clarity on policy 8320, which requires a vote of 2/3 of the board to suspend any policy. So I'm wondering if that is the requirement for this agenda item.
It would be yes.
So with that, obviously, we wouldn't have 2/3 of the board from just hearing from other people. We could just skip past this item and move to the next and leave no action and then come back later if need be to create a resolution to get everyone's support on. If that's something that Ms. Ryan, Mrs. Goding, Ms. Cassidy, Mr. Perlman, that you're okay with, we can move on to item I1B.
Mark, can I say something?
Yes, Dr. Logan.
As a school administrator, I have done 2 tornadoes during the school year, during the school day, a shooting, an earthquake, all kinds of different kinds of illness, the death of a student during the school day who collapsed. I would take all of those on the same day rather than deal with this pandemic. And one of the things that I can say is that I know this has been done for pretty much most of the superintendents across the state, and I perhaps am different from them. But I don't know what's going to happen, and none of us knows as a result. And it doesn't. I mean, clearly, I can move forward and do what it is that I need to do. And I know that I have proven myself to be hardworking, trustworthy, dedicated, committed, super communicative, and it's been done in multiple school districts across the nation. And I don't know why I'm different from the other superintendents in Nebraska. I'm just going to compare that because that's the state where we all are working. And there may be something that comes up that could be an emergency because we are in a time that I can't predict what's going to happen. And so, if the board doesn't feel that I am worthy of that, whatever, and I've heard what you said, and you can say it however you want to, but I feel a different way about that, and I'm putting it out there in a public forum for the record. And it's disappointing because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. I believe that many of the things that haven't happened in Omaha, that have happened in other school districts, haven't happened because we acted quickly. We closed quickly. We led with saying that we were going to close, and other districts decided to close along with us. And that's all that I want to say. I've heard the statements, and I believe that's what you're saying, but I need to be really clear about my perception as well as I see my colleagues, the boards of my colleagues express this confidence in their superintendent to do what may be required, what nobody knows what is going to be required at this time. Thank you.
Ms. Snipe.
Sorry about that. I was on mute. I really don't have to say I had put my comments there. I was just saying I agree. I did do research on it. It has been done across the entire nation. But if people have questions, they should be answered. So I agree. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. I believe I have the floor here, so we will go ahead and move on. Unless is there anybody against it, Mr. Perlman or anybody? Move on to item I-1B.
I just have a point of order, please. We either need to take a vote on it or a vote to table it.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to table this resolution.
So moved, Ryan.
Hello?
Second, Gadding.
There's a motion by Ms. Ryan, second by Mrs. Gadding. Discussion. Ms. Crackey, did you have anything to say?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yes, ma'am. We can hear you, Nancy.
You can hear me now, or you can...
We can hear you now. Go ahead and speak. Okay. Lost her, I think, on that. Mr. Ray, roll call, please. And this is a motion to suspend, push this resolution back to the next meeting.
Point of order. Is it tabling or postponing? I always get a little confused.
I apologize, tabling. That was the motion I initially put up there.
Table to another meeting, not postpone in this meeting, is what you're saying?
Correct.
Correct.
Thank you.
Ryan,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Snipe,
Aye.
Snow, Snow,
No.
Cassidy,
Aye.
Gadding,
Aye.
Crackey, Mrs. Crackey, Perlman,
Go ahead, sorry.
No.
that's 6. So Perlman, Mr. Perlman, you're saying no? Sorry.
Correct. No to tabling.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Crackey, I want to try again.
Try that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. As far as the resolution goes, I have no problem with saying aye to that. I do question and have a problem sometimes about things I would like to know that are happening in the district. And so in order to inform us of something that's like earth-shattering or something, I just would appreciate a phone call and leave me the message or leave it to me. And I just want to know that because I want to know when things are going out. I don't like the public to tell me. I want to be sure that I know and say, yes, I know that. You know, otherwise I'm stunned if I don't know something. So that's a big thing with me, and that's the only thing that is big. But as far as this resolution goes, I don't have a problem with that today. I'm done talking.
So, Mrs. Crackey, on the motion to table, is it a yes or a no?
Yes. Or no, I can go forward the resolution as it is.
Okay, so no.
Yes. So that's 5 yeses and 3 no's.
Thank you. Motion carries to table the resolution. Moving on to item I-1B. I believe this was Ms. Scotting.
Yes. Yep. Thank you very much. So I asked for this item to be pulled off. I believe it's for a point of sale software system, and there's no real description about what it is. So I would like information on how it will work, the impact to staff and families. I'm assuming it's for the cafeteria, but I'm not really sure. So if you could kind of give us some detail, and then if I have questions, or if other people have questions, could we then jump in?
Yes, and Tammy Yarman is here as well as Dr. Sturba.
Perfect. Thank you.
So either Tammy or Dr. Sturba, if you wouldn't mind answering those questions.
Sure, this is Dr. Sturba. So it is a point of sale for the cafeteria, that is correct. It's the same software system that we've used for the last 4 years.
So I guess the question I've got is it just renewing the current contract? Or is it updated new software?
So the original contract was a 3-year contract, so we did have to put it out to bid again. And Primero came in as the low bid at about a third of the cost of the other 2 bidders.
Okay. And then the other question I know that I asked 3 years ago when this was done, if there was a way to mitigate some of the cost that families were experiencing when we went out to bid again. I know there's a fee charged on the credit card processing, and I had asked, typically when you do a debit of a checking account transaction, there's not much cost to the processor to do that, and if that fee could be reduced as well. Was that done in this proposal, and what is the cost to families to put the money into their account in order to have lunch money?
Yes, ma'am, that was done. So there is no charge at all for the child or the parent to take a cash or check to the school or to the office at Nutrition Services. Tammy Yarman just walked in, so her computer must have gone down on her, or
Okay.
sound wasn't working. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to giggle at. So there is no charge at all if a child or a family brings a cash or check to the school or to Nutrition Service office. They can mail it there. Currently, there's a 5% deposit. 5% of the deposit is a fee. So in looking at overall, how much does a family put in at a time? Many of our families put in no more than $40 at a time. So that fee would be $2 at 5%.
Correct. So I remember that.
I'm sorry.
So I know that there was the fee on the credit card side, but if you wanted just a transaction debiting your checking account, there was also a fee for that. And typically, in working with processors, that's typically, there's minimal cost to hit a checking account. Was that fee reduced? And not writing a check or cash, but just putting in your account.
This is Tammy Yarman here with Lisa Sturba.
Yes.
And the fee that the company charges is for all payments through the online system. It covers the cost of the web page maintenance, software support, updates to the software, and then of course the fees that they have to pay the banks. And so they don't delineate out any differences in fees for any kind of online payment. It's pretty well standard whether somebody uses a credit card or through the ACH.
Okay. I was hoping that maybe we could get the ACH piece reduced since that isn't a significant cost. I know the credit card transaction is a heftier fee. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much. I guess the only other question I would add is since we've wrapped up the school year, what are your plans for specifically thinking about seniors, because probably people had money in their accounts, issuing those refunds, and then anyone who may be moving? Do families need to contact you? There may be families that decide, hey, I'd really like that money back before we get to August. What is the process for families reaching out and having a refund issued to them? Is it an automatic by you guys, or how will that be done?
Well, we got on that about 2 weeks ago. We submitted the list of seniors to the accounting department so that way we can start the process of refunding the senior accounts. I have received phone calls from parents, and we have processed those refunds as the parents have requested us. And then we've also taken some money.
Sorry, I lost you.
Oh,
I lost her too.
okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. We went ahead and started processing the senior refunds about 2 weeks ago. I've received calls from parents who were requesting refunds, and we were processing these.
So it sounds like, from what I could gather out of that, that senior refunds are being processed, and if families want a refund of any money that they have in their accounts, they should contact Nutrition Services directly.
Yes.
Correct? Okay.
Or if they want to put it in a sibling account, I've been doing that as well.
Sure. And that's elementary through high school, correct?
Correct.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mrs. Scotting, do you have any other questions or anything about this item?
Nope, I'm good.
Thank you. Does any other board members have any questions or comments about item I-1B? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Ray?
Thank you.
Motion to approve, Godding.
Sorry. There's a motion on the floor by Ms. Scotting. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Cracky. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Ray, roll call.
Smith,
Aye.
Snipe,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Cassidy,
Aye.
Gadding,
Aye.
Cracky,
Aye.
Perlman,
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to item I-1C. I believe this was also Mrs. Scotting as well.
And
Thank you.
Mr. Roberts is on the phone, Tyler's on the phone, Tyler Mullen, and I believe Bruce Leffler is on.
I thought Mr. Leffler was on as well. Perfect. Well, thank you. I asked for this item to be pulled off simply because we have done a call of bonds before and handled all of that. So for really, it's item, if we could combine item I-1C and I-1D, I think that would be great. I would just like Mr. Leffler or whoever wants to take the question to walk us through these two agenda items and what the potential savings to the district and ultimately the taxpayer is, what the costs are to do the call and the issue, and then so if you could just do that to start with, that would be awesome. Thanks.
Okay. I was just going to say, Scott, if you want to do an overview and I'd follow up.
Sure, that'd be great. Can everyone hear me okay?
Great.
Well, good evening, everyone. Yes, this refunding is roughly $50 million worth of bonds. Right now, based on market conditions a week ago, we're anticipating overall savings of about $3 million. Of course, there's volatility in market. We will pay attention to that, but the savings is fairly significant. Costs associated with the call and reissue is roughly $300,000. The majority of that is the underwriter's discount. There's some small fees for legal and rating agencies as well. We are using 100% of the proceeds to refund and reissue. We are not extending the amortization period on the existing bonds at all. So we're simply taking out the old ones and putting in the new ones.
Great. So is the difference between I-1C and I-1D accrued interest potentially? Is that what it is?
I think I'll defer to Tyler, but I believe we need a formal resolution to call the old bonds, which is I-1C, and I-1D is the authorization to issue new bonds.
Correct. I-1C totals about 52 point something million, and I-1D is about 54 million. Just wanting to make sure the public understands what that difference is.
Correct.
Yeah, this is Bruce, and yes, you're correct there that the first resolution to call the bonds references the par amount of the bonds to be called that are outstanding. And what happens when we're making the call on the new bonds is, yes, we are paying that principal amount off plus accrued interest to the settlement date on the bonds, plus the cost of issuance associated with the bond issue, with the reissuance of the bond. So that's the differential.
Great.
That we're coming up with the two different numbers exactly.
Okay.
And Scott, I'll make one other point. When Scott mentions the debt service savings that we're looking at from interest rates about a week or so ago, the debt services we've always reported it on refunding to the district are net of any of the expenses. So when we talk about $3 million for the savings, it's actually bottom line, net, whatever terminology you want to use, but it's actually true cash flow debt service savings to the district over the remaining life of the issue, which is just about 4.5 years.
Oh, great. Thanks. That was actually going to be my next question. And then
Okay.
just for the public and their awareness, this will actually end up being a savings, that $3 million that will flow through on the levy they see on their property tax statement related to construction bonds. Is that correct?
This is Bruce. I'd say yes, that's correct.
Yep, I would as well.
Okay, perfect.
There you go,
Well, I just wanted to make sure that we all understood what the savings was. In the past, this has always been a action item with a presentation. So I appreciate you guys being able to provide that information to the board, to give us more information and to share that good story, which is important right now, right, with our constituents. So thank you very much.
I wanted to make sure that I commended Scott Roberts and his leadership for making sure that he is continuing to identify areas of savings, which has been kind of the hallmark of this administration, making sure that anytime that we can find savings, that we find them for the district. So Scott, Mr. Roberts, rather, I want to make sure that I thank you publicly for always looking for savings for our school district, and been a stellar job since you've come on board and just dove straight into the public arena, and also to Bruce Leffler and to Tyler Mullen for their amazing efforts as part of a partnership with the Omaha Public Schools. Thank you very, very much. We really appreciate it. And taxpayers, we're very excited, myself included, as a homeowner, to have a savings on my next tax bill. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe we can get some publicity on that. Maybe the World Herald could pick that up and do an article on it, because people like to see that.
Correct. Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
Sure. This is Tyler Mullen. I'll just give one last overview of what we're doing here on I-1C and I-1D. So in I-1C, that is the resolution authorizing the call of the district's general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2010. The president of the board and the superintendent both have the authority to ultimately call those 2010 bonds. The bond resolution in I-1D is a bond resolution that authorizes bonds in the principal amount of not to exceed $54 million. These bonds will be sold in a competitive sale with Piper Sandler as financial advisor. And similar to how we've done previous deals, the president or the superintendent are both authorized to accept the winning bid of that competitive sale. Like we said, the principal amount of these bonds is not to exceed $54 million, and the true interest cost is not to exceed 2%. In addition to authorizing these bonds, the bond resolution also approves the forms of the preliminary official statement, the notice of sale, and the paying agent agreement, which all of which are documents that will be used within this transaction.
Thank you. Mrs. Gotting, did he answer your question for item I1D?
So I1C and I1D, I am comfortable with those answers. I just wanted to make sure that we had a public conversation about that.
Okay. Is there a way, I would like to kind of approve these at the same time, if that's okay with you.
I make a motion to approve I1C and I1D as stated.
There's a motion by Mrs. Gotting. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Cracky. Discussion. Anybody else have any questions or anything else? Seeing none. Mr. Ray, roll call, please.
Snipe,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Cassidy,
Aye.
Gotti,
Aye.
Cracky,
Aye.
Perlman,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Ada.
Motion carries for item I1C and I1D. Thank you. Moving on to information item. We do have some policy updates. Move my,
Bruce Leffler.
Is now exiting.
and one second.
Where are we?
All right, so information item on, I think it's policy 2010, 2120, 2150, 2200, 2110, 2600, 4023, 4042, 4043, 6121, 8342, and 9340. I believe this, Mr. Ray?
Did you leave out 6290?
You're correct,
Hello?
6290. It's in there.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
So these, if Ms. Ryan would like to kick us off, if she'd like, this came through the policy committee.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so the policy committee met a couple weeks ago, I think now. And these are a series of policies that we've been looking at up until March. And we're just looking to put them on the agenda and keep on moving forward with some of the work that we can do while we're in this pandemic.
Thank you. See if I have any questions or anything on any of these policies that are listed on the agenda.
I have a few comments and questions.
Mr. Perlman.
I'll be brief. I'm just looking at policy 4023. I know this is just first reading, so I'll contact Ms. Ryan and I'm sure we can work through all these. It's just some wording that I'm seeing.
Okay.
Like A1, for example, where it says the penalty for the crime includes incarceration. That one's kind of hard because there's some crimes that I don't even think people realize are crimes, like, not registering your car and things like that. And believe it or not, that carries up to, I think, 3 months in jail. Using in between all these numbers here, whether probably the intent is probably to have the word or in between all of those. And one other one, and after this, we'll talk it out over the next month or two, but I see this quite a bit. There's always a big question about the definition of violence and force, and what all that means. And we just want to make sure that we're not over-inclusive and under-inclusive. So just a couple of things. Oh, and there's actually one other point. Well, no, I'll leave it at that. Well, I'm sure we can work on this over the next couple months.
Yep, sounds good to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Mrs. Godding.
I would just ask that if there are changes, could you do those in a different color, maybe say blue or green or something? That way we know, okay, here's what the red ones were, and then here's what Ben has brought to the table, just so that we don't have to read everything again.
Yep, Mr. Ray will do that in a different color.
Perfect, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? One second here. Alrighty. Well, those will be adjusted, and then remember, April 15th is today, obviously. May 13th is the first reading, and the second reading will be in June. And also, just to remind everybody, we start our regular board meetings twice a month, starting in June. So we will have that first meeting in June, and then the second on that first Monday, and the second meeting will be June 15th. And we usually have one meeting in the month of July, just for everyone's record there. Alrighty, let me get back into here. We have received reports. We have the CBOC Phase 1 and Phase 2 update for March. And I will pass it on to Ms. Cassidy.
Okay, I move that the Board of Education go into closed session for the protection of the public interest and for the prevention of needless injury to the reputation of individuals, to discuss with the superintendent, secretary to the board, and legal counsel pending litigation and legal advice.
There's a motion to go into closed session by Ms. Cassidy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Cracky. Mr. Ray, roll call, please.
Snow,
Aye.
Snipe,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Perlman,
Aye.
Cracky,
Aye.
Godding,
Aye.
Cassidy.
Aye.
8 aye.
Motion carries. Real quick for the board, members, Mr. Ray is going to send you an invite, if I'm correct.
No, board members just stay on. And
Okay, perfect.
Give me a minute to uninvite some participants. So it's just the board, Dr. Logan and Megan, and we'll be in closed session. And then once we're out of closed session, Adam will join back and we'll be streaming as we normally do.
All right. What? Let me remind the board that the purpose for
And I should commend him too, as well. He did a fantastic job. And thank you to all of you for getting on early and making sure that everything worked, and for doing the no video and the whatever, unless you were speaking. All of that made the meeting not have any technology hiccups. So we really appreciate that.
It was not on TV.
Real quick, let me adjourn the meeting. The board came out of closed session at 9:01. Meetings, you can continue if you would like. Sorry, Nancy, we were running
Okay.
long.
I don't have anything to say, ever.
Oh, poor Nancy.
Yeah, we know.
Good
night, everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Good night, anyone that